What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another
Yo,
episode, Love God, Love Sex podcast. I'm one of your hosts, I'm one of your hosts, Heath Maxwell. Joined.
what's good, everybody? Is Jamie. Today we're talking about friendships.
Ooh,
How
what
many
about
of us have them?
friends?
Ones we can depend on. I don't know if you should be dependent on, every friend that you have, but are all friendships really set up for that type of deliverable where you can depend on people all the time? I
No,
don't think
I
so,
don't
but
think so, but some of them I think are, and some friendships are, friendships of convenience or from childhood or friendships of familiarity, that's childhood. And then some are friendships of depth and solidarity through some of the deepest trials of both you and respectively your lives. Uh, so,
right.
you know, as I
Well,
say,
there's
some people
there's
say friendships are for a season.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, there's still a lot of debate about whether opposite sex, opposite genders can actually have real, authentic friendships. So that's
That's
the
what we're
reason
here
why
today to
we're
talk
talking
about.
about this today. Um, Pastor Nori would say, "Pussy plus dick will always equal a fuck." So there are people
That's
out here
true.
that feel like men and women cannot be friends. They can't be in the same room because at some point, our nature is going to kick in
Yep.
and we got to contend with that.
Yep.
But just for the sake of this conversation, there are a couple of beats that we really want to hit today. One of the main points is the importance of opposite sex, opposite gender friendships. We also want to talk about societal views and misconceptions about these friendships, what that could be. Again, like I just mentioned, Nori. But there are other people who feel like that as well. And then some of the pitfalls that come from trying to cultivate these friendships.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just dive right in, right at that first point. Like, do you feel like opposite genders can be friends and have a sustainable friendship?
Short answer, yes. Absolutely. I love this conversation because back in my 20s, my life was positively, and I mean positively impacted by my ability to befriend women. I'd gone through a bulk of my 20s, celibate or abstinent,
Hmm.
rather, not celibate, abstinent, because I was doing some stuff. I just wasn't having penetrative sex. And because of that, I was able to see women in a different view and deepen friendships and relationships with women that because I didn't have the emphasis of always trying to lead it to the bedroom or felt the pressure as a man to always have to be smooth, be suave, or just make women swoon. It was just about the connection, and it was what it was, and it was on the table, and it became friendly or friendlier. That's great. Or if it was just on the table and was convenient, then great. But that pressure was gone, so I was able to really move pretty powerfully with women. Um, and it was great because one of the things these relationships did is they challenged my patriarchal views about women and men and
Mm-hmm.
women and who should do what and who should provide, who should take what, who should receive what. Um, and it also opened my eyes to the plight that many women have in the workplace and in their homes. I mean, the truth is, how can we ignore the opinions, perspectives, and life experience of 50% of our species? Yet
Mm.
that is a major thing that does happen. And I know people, especially in the red pill community, would disagree with me, and that's fine. That's open for debate and discussion. But this has just been my experience, not only just based on who I am, but based on the reading and research. And I don't mean research in the sense I've done it, but reading. Right, we talked about that in the podcast. Doing good reading
Mm-hmm.
and exposure to life experiences that have changed my life and helped me develop a more inclusive mindset. And I think men and women benefit from listening across the table to each other and just having really good platonic friendships so they can understand each other's pain. And I say, when you do that, you can start building bridges where places there's big gaps of misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I mean whether you're talking about women in your family, friends that you have, even just people that you meet on the street, I think having that perspective is priceless. Like you said, it gives you insight into dealing with this sex, this gender that you may eventually end up coupling with.
Hmm.
Um, So you mentioned, in your early 20s, you had uh, positively been impacted by a bunch of friendships. I'm thinking about me going to an all boys high school, and you can only imagine how much testosterone was swirling around there. A lot of patriarchy filled
Same here. I went
views,
to all boys.
ideas, and not even from a malicious perspective. It's just,
Hmm.
but when you don't have both sides present, a lot there's just that imbalance there.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of those ideas did ignore women and the woman's experience. But to have women in my family, or from church, or wherever there was a higher population of women, it kind of gave me some balance to how I saw them and held space for them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For sure. For
So
sure.
what
Yeah.
do you?
And I'll take it a step further, saying these friendships are central to my life.
Mm,
Um, so
I'm
yeah.
assuming that you mean they're still, you still have them. They're still
Yeah.
active.
Yeah. So let me give you another example. I talked about my 20s. Let's talk about my 30s.
Mhm.
During my 30s, my relationship with my current partner was propped up by women who looked out for that relationship, women who protected that relationship. They offered
Mm,
different perspectives and insights about life and what it meant to navigate the world as a woman. They got into everything from the pulls, the pangs, the triumphs, the valley points, the mountain peaks. I mean, you really start to hear life from someone who lives a totally different life than you could ever possibly imagine. And their advice, patience, and wisdom, their life experiences allowed me to see and experience some of the critiques and anger that my partner had, whether in my relationship or in relationship as a whole, and
mm.
her relationship to her parents or her household. So the family household I'm talking about. So that was super important for me, and it allowed me to see, oh wow, well if my friend or this woman who I befriended is going through this kind of pain, and it sounds very similar to what I'm hearing coming from my partner, where's the connections and what can I be doing better to think more clearly, be more of an advocate, be more of a connector, and be more inclusive in my home. So that definitely in my 30s was another step in elevation in my connections with women or the opposite sex.
Well, it's like Tupac said, we all got our name from a woman, we came from a woman, and got our game
Yeah,
from a
from a
woman.
woman. Yeah. Why do we rape our
um,
women? Why do we take from our women?
do we hate our women?
Mm.
It's time to heal our women, to
We
be
be real
real
with our
to our
women.
women, to kill for our women.
Whew.
Great lyrics, great
Oh man, yeah,
lyrics.
Pac was a genius. I mean, just
Hmm.
hate using that word genius, but he was brilliant. Just a poet, true
Oh, for
definition of that
sure,
term.
for sure. The first female friends that I had were women in my family.
Mm.
Cousins who talked to me about all sorts of things, from you know personal journey with religion, to sex, to education, and so many different things. They told me about hygiene, about social etiquette. My grandmother was very active in the church, and I feel like just in the community, she had a very high level of respect because of her activity, her activeness, in the church and in the community at large. Um, so I usually think of engaging with my male friends more for counsel and like practical advice, but at the same time, I feel like women provided a lot of that emotional stability, and or just insight around emotional ideas and concepts, that I might have struggled with talking to guys sometimes, because
Hmm.
guys are not always apt to be honest and transparent about how they feel,
Hmm.
especially without judgment of being soft, or something
Weak
like things like
beta.
weak. Yeah.
I smell beta.
Um,
Low
and,
test. Low test.
and listen, I've heard that from women as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, they ask you to be open and honest, and when you tell them how you feel, it's like,
Look at this bitch up in here.
exactly. But I think that may be more a cultural thing than anything. I don't necessarily feel like that's how women innately are. I feel like they do look to nurture emotions and feelings and things like that. So I really appreciate feminine energy in my life.
Hmm.
But let's transition this conversation and talk about some of these societal views, since we just kind of mentioned it a little bit. What are some of the societal views and misconceptions about friendships between the sexes?
Well, I think you touched on it what Nori said, right? Pussy plus dick equals a fuck.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge I had to my women friendships, and not just coming from me, but from the women, is the fact that once a man and woman are alone and being vulnerable and intimate with each other, and I don't mean physically intimate, just I think emotionally intimate, it's just ultimately going to lead to sex. Sex is always just going to be there, right? Just like Jason, you just running and running and running. All of a sudden, like, got away. Bang! Sex comes out of
It's
nowhere with
right
the
there.
hockey mask on and some condoms and some lube. Like, yeah,
Thought you got away.
you thought you got away. Don't even worry about running back to the cabin. I got a bed right here among all this foliage right by
Oh
Crystal
man.
Lake. Um, but what's crazy is that we do know some things to be true, right? That friendships can be a healthy gateway or a gateway to healthy relationships, and they are.
Hmm.
But I think if people don't have that mindset all the time, they can, and they have a mindset of really just connecting with people, and they have boundaries, they can have some thriving friendships. I just heard today from a random text message from an ex-girlfriend slash friend of mine, and we just chatted for a little bit, and it was like, yo, pray for me, and I was like, yo, pray for me. We just had like a really cool thing. She was just getting into this like former pastor, motivational speaker, so it was just a really good time of just connecting, and it
Mm,
was like, yo, peace until the next random text, homie. And that was it. But the love is still there. And I don't mean even romantic love, just the respect for
yeah.
who that person is. I mean, one of the
Yep.
questions I asked her was like, you got any business ideas going? Because she's just brilliant. She's really good at math, really good at networking, computer science, and she always got something in the hopper that she's cooking. And her partner, they're both on that same wavelength. So I just know that's a couple that once they put their heads together, they're gonna just do amazing, amazing things. So that's just cool that I can have that relationship and just let it be what it is. So you have to have boundaries. I'm not just saying y'all in the house 11 o'clock, butt naked in the hot tub talking about. I just want to talk to you with my ex girlfriend.
Let me tell you about this business idea
Yeah,
while I look
exactly.
at you naked in the hot
Yeah,
tub. Yeah,
exactly.
no.
Can I tell you about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? You got the Bible there, and the Bible opens up the condoms.
Oh man, no, what you said was important. Boundaries are definitely important. I
Yeah.
think is an important part of this conversation because we are human and we do have hormones, and I think sometimes when there's an attraction, that can make if you're in a committed relationship, that can make a partner a little jealous, or raise an eyebrow at the friendship, like, well, you can't hang out with them unless I'm there,
Hmm.
type of thing. But it's I think in those kind of scenarios, like the boundaries are what protect the friendship. And I have a number of a plethora, actually no, a small number of really gorgeous, gorgeous friends who, you know, when we first met, if they would have gave me the opportunity, I probably would have tried to beat.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But just because that wasn't on the table, and the friendship kind of developed a little bit more authentically and organically, it became more about rapport and respect and honor and admiration, and those kind of became the things that the friendship were built on, our interactions were built on.
Hmm.
And it's like it's kind of crazy to say I can say that they're gorgeous, but I really have zero attraction to them like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And it's funny how friendship kind of works like that, right? It's like when you don't really know the kind of relationship that's gonna evolve from your interactions talking with this person, that's all that could be on the table.
Hmm.
That could easily happen, but once you develop that respect for this person and you're no longer objectifying them or just looking at what you can get from them in that way, or how their body or who they are is going to serve you, you learn how to respect them and your relationship and those boundaries in a different way.
Well, for sure. And you brought up the concept of attraction. And
Mm,
people have had these discussions that attraction underpins all relationships, friendships, even romantic or platonic, and
mm,
even two people who are cishet who are the same sex, right? There's a attraction there, and that's hard for some men to understand, right? You're attracted to your homeboy, you're attracted to the dude you play basketball with, or baseball with, or a chess game with, or vice versa for a woman. And I think there's a difference between different types of attraction. Attraction doesn't always mean romantic sexual attraction,
Right. Yeah.
but a
Hmm.
connection that can keep a friendship alive. And that's why I find it silly for people always to talk about attraction. Well, what if you guys are attracted to each other? But I could say that Jim and Tyrone are attracted to each other. Again, not sexually, not romantically, but they're attracted in the sense of they may have similar interests, goals in mind, and they believe in the similar futures for themselves and their families.
Mm.
And so there's an attraction that's there. Again, they don't go home and fantasize about each other physically or even emotionally, but they have something that ties them together. And I think that also often needs to be surfaced when we talk about men and women being together. There's different types of attraction. Just because a woman's there, like you said, you have some really gorgeous friends, but you're not attracted to them. I don't know how many conversations I've had with my male friends where we talk about a woman being pretty, but yeah, it doesn't really do it for me, right? And I'm sure women have the same thing where I could recognize a guy is like aesthetically and structurally good looking, but I just there's no energy there. I'm not attracted. So I think that has to be said.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, I think it was some years ago where Tyler Perry talked about not necessarily an attraction to TD Jakes, but it was like that is who he was getting a lot of his spiritual guidance from, I guess, or something like that. But I think that's an example of that, right? Um, two men can have that kind of an attraction or connection, like you called it. Um, but that's a good example of that friendship of utility, right? There's
Mhm.
like this practical or functional use of both people in this friendship. But usually when you're talking about attraction, it is a potential hurdle, in the opposite sex friendships. It's around sexual attraction,
Mhm.
and it's why a lot of committed relationships often express issues with the opposite sex friend.
Mhm. Mhm.
They feel like there's a threat to this person succumbing to that natural pull to the opposite sex. Like I said, you're sitting around with someone, a friend that might be gorgeous, but you're not attracted to, but nature kicks in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nature can kind of take its course, and maybe the friendship that you had, this connection that you had, which was mutual and it was about respect. If you're having an issue with your partner, that might look like the grass is greener over there. You know
Mm.
what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't think attraction always has to be an issue. Like I said, the number of gorgeous friends that I have that I'm perfectly fine just sitting and talking with and building with and throwing around ideas and coming up with uh,
Yeah.
different types of things that we feel like might help the community or other friends that we have. Like I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. What about friends with benefits? FWB. I mean, a lot of people have done it, including me. But I mean,
Yeah.
but essentially, in this context of friendships, opposite sex, what are they?
Well, for me, most of my FWB situations either led with sex and grew into a friendship,
Mm.
or led with friendship and then the sex was kind of explored at a later time. Um, but the through line with both of those scenarios is kind of knowledge itself. Like you have to know and be accountable for your actions with people. So if someone you're sleeping with has other qualities that you admire, and you appreciate their company, non-sexually, like that can grow into a beautiful friendship. I think there just has to be that shared or mutual understanding and desire for that, for
Mhm.
the friendship.
Got it. Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So friendship with benefits, totally understandable. What are the scenarios in cultivating and maintaining these friendships? I mean, can they be potentially dangerous or harmful? Now, we've touched on it a little bit here, sprinkled it here so far through the episode, but let's take a moment to deep dive with that. And I wanted to get it started because we've extolled the benefits, we've talked about the ways we could do it. The first time I really think about media wise, right? A friendship where, you know, it became sexual was Brown Sugar, the movie with Sanaa Lathan and Tay Diggs, all centered around
Hmm.
hip hop. Early aughts, turn of the century movie. Great film, by the way. I watched it recently. I was like, oh, this is a really great film. But that's what people fear, right? Your fiance fears that best friend, quote unquote, that you've had since eighth grade, seventh grade, is all of a sudden gonna go sexual. When you're 32 years old, looking to get married in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be this big, curtain call reveal. Pull back the curtain and be like, "By the way, I've been in love with you for 20 years," and it's just like, wow, that just leaves the other person out in the lurch. Or
Yeah.
just taking one step further, that there's, I think, also the fear of the intimacy, that person, that best friend, that woman or that man has access to you that they don't have the ability to have. Right? They have a special key card to your heart that your spouse or your partner or your fiance hasn't gotten yet.
Funny story.
True
I was
story. Lean
I,
back.
I was dating a girl once,
Okay.
and she had a friend that she met at a speed dating event.
Okay.
And initially, the story around their friendship sounded really, really bogus. He was a trainer, and it's like he had sent her some progress photos with his shirt off, even though he was a trainer. And I ended up seeing him, and I was trying to discuss it with her, and I was worried that their friendship was more than it was because I had a insecurity about my body.
Mm,
Now, whether they were doing whatever they were doing, the insecurity was mine. So this is what I was talking about, the self-awareness earlier. Like, you really have to know and be accountable for your thoughts, ideas, and actions with people. So, that I feel like that could be a insecurities can definitely be a pitfall.
mm.
But you know I remember a viral video of Steve Harvey
Yes,
discussing how he doesn't have female friends.
that's right.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen
Did
it,
it did
and
it resonate with you at all?
well, it was timely because obviously when I think back to it, we're having this discussion, and that I think was sometime last year, 2022. And for those that haven't heard it, he asserts in this quick clip that a woman or a man who has a friend of the opposite sex only has that friend, right? Because that person is waiting around for the opportunity to snatch that person up once their partner makes a wrong move, or that person is a little bit more amenable or open to a romantic relationship. And I get it, right? I
That's
do.
Jason again, waiting in the wings,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ha, ha, ha. Ding, ding. It just comes out of nowhere. Said, "Oh yeah, yeah. Wow, I got the key card to the Parker Meridian. Yeah, I got the yeah,
Oh,
I
Four
got the
Seasons.
hideaway in Morocco waiting for us. Come
Four
on."
Seasons penthouse. Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. We could do that tomorrow.
Oh, you want the Sheridan? You know what? No problem. Do you right on the conference table. You know what I'm saying? Right
Not on the
outside of
conference table.
the International Conference of Plumbers. Oh, they have. Oh, yeah. And they could be snaking some drains. I'm gonna be snaking some drains. Don't even worry about that.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
But
But I mean, I guess that kind of ties into what we said about boundaries, right?
mhm.
If I'm married, and if I'm like Steve and I'm married, and my wife's friend invites her over for wine at a late hour, objectively, there may not be anything wrong. But as a husband, I just may be thinking, well, he's not my friend; he's your friend, and I might have some suspicions about that. Or like, where was my invite? He didn't invite me. You know what I mean? So I guess it depends on the scenario, how it looks, how it's set up. But I mean, I've also lived through that.
Yeah, yeah,
I have
yeah,
also lived through that.
yeah.
But I think I had so much trust in my partner. Not that her friend wouldn't try anything, but that she wouldn't do anything.
Of course.
I really believed that our bond and our union meant something to her, and I knew her values around loyalty and
Mhm.
fidelity, and I wasn't worried about her doing anything. But again, an insecurity can definitely make you raise
Oh,
an eyebrow.
oh, for sure. I mean, because there has to be some level of comfort by the partner. because certain routines and rituals were around prior to your arrival.
Yeah,
Sleepovers,
exactly.
vacations together, secret
Mhm.
information shared,
Right.
and those rituals may have to be rethought once you enter the picture or your partner enters the picture. So I think that's
And
important to
honestly,
know.
yo, and if that friendship is important enough, like I was alluding to earlier, a person should really take the necessary steps to merge them, to merge you into that friendship.
Mhm,
You know what I
for
mean? So
sure.
that means introducing me to your friend or introducing your partner to that friend just so they know what it is, and be transparent with them about those, pre-relationship rituals. Like if y'all were having sleepovers, was it ever intimacy engaged? That secret information. I don't want you to know if he's got a 10 incher. And if you do, forget about it. Forget that you know.
The
So I
dreaded
mean,
10 incher. Did it.
I
Did it.
mean,
It's like Jaws.
even if it was only one time that you slept over, something like that can cause an issue or a bump or a hiccup. But again, I feel like that happens more when that insecurity is present.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
you do what you got to do on the front end to help assuage your partner's potential insecurities around your friendship.
Yeah. I think these friendships help you learn more about yourself as an intimate or sex partner. In the video, Why You'll Marry the Wrong Person, which is a video I recommend everybody put into YouTube with this British philosopher. It's 20 minutes, 22 minutes to be exact. And I recommend it because he goes through all these critical, well researched steps about
Hmm.
why you'll marry the wrong person. And he talks about how difficult it is for us as human beings to use our intuition to determine what parts of our behavior or personality need to be placed in check in order to become a better person.
Mm.
And what he goes a step further, saying friends and lovers, but friends in particular, are necessary for helping us do that because again, we can't intuit, we can't determine on our own accord what is annoying or abrasive to other people. What are those behaviors? What are those personality traits that are holding us back? And a friend can pull you inside and say everything from, you have an issue with bad breath, or you have an issue with lateness, you have an issue with
Hmm.
disrespecting people's time, you have an
Being
issue with
lazy or
not,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, you have an issue with not being accountable. Once we confront you about an issue, you're too defensive, you take things too
Hmm.
personally. The laundry list continues. And when you're learning about your partner, those friends, if you're in, like you just said, a merged relationship, could really help you navigate that, so that you learn not only to how to understand your partner, but more importantly, the P word, which is patience. You learn how to be patient with your partner. So friends help you be patient with yourself, and then your partner's friends can help you be patient with them.
Well, Aristotle said patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. So,
Mm,
that patience is necessary. But as we wrap up, I just got some last words. You can't learn about yourself in a vacuum, in a bubble. So you need friends to be mirrors and kind of show you, like you talked about, if you're late, these issues that you have, if you're not accountable, if you're being lazy or bad breath or hygiene, whatever it is, like you really need friends to kind of guide you to those things and show you how to navigate and get through them.
mm,
And I think a lot of times for men, there's a benefit to having a woman with maybe a softer touch, tell you about these things,
yeah,
and kind of help you with your fine tuning. So, if you're a guy, I highly encourage you to build and engage your community of the opposite sex
for sure.
as much as possible.
Yeah. And my last word on this is just really find the women friends who can help you share their life and their life experiences, not to make you a better person per se, but for you to learn more about a life or a set of experiences you'll never be exposed to. It'll
Mm.
make you more mature as a human being, and it'll give you a perspective of how you can be an agent of change, and you can be an advocate for helping to reimagine society in a more positive, inclusive way. So that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for listening. Check us out on our social pages at Love God, Love Sex Pod at YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Go ahead and smash down that subscribe button. And also, you can email us at connect at lovegodlovesexpodcast.net. Always looking for cool show ideas or show topics or suggestions. Thanks for listening. Check out, and always remember, I would say, go check out friends that are of the opposite sex or form friends of the opposite sex.
Facts.
Take care.
Peace.